As Australia reckons with the violent death of one woman every 4 days, would dedicated domestic violence police officers save women's lives? That's the proposal from one former Queensland detective. It comes amid details of 171 breaches of domestic violence procedures identified by New South Wales Police. They include failing to seize guns, take statements, follow apprehended violence order requirements, or check CCTV footage. And they were sometimes followed by the murders of women, children, or another person. Dr Terry Goldsworthy worked as a police officer for 28 years in Queensland, including as a detective heading up a Gold Coast CIB and also in the Police Ethical Standards Command. He's now an associate professor in criminology at Bond University, and he joined me earlier. Dr Goldsworthy, did you see instances when you were a police officer where women weren't taken seriously, and can you describe what you saw?
There was one incident that I highlighted to the recent commission we had in Queensland where there was a woman stabbed to death at the Gold Coast here, and I was away on secondment at the time it occurred. But when I came back, I looked through the file, and to me it seemed problematic because there had been, I think, almost 10 occasions when police had been called to that address, yet there was no affirmative DV action taken.
Well, indeed, among the breaches highlighted in this New South Wales report, where several women reached out to police frightened for their safety and their children, and firearms, guns weren't removed, resulting in murders of either the women, children or another person at the home. There are a number of breaches of the New South Wales Police's own procedures involving failures to remove children at risk or follow apprehended violence order requirements or collect evidence properly. Why do you think these failures happen?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I mean, it seems that the police services have in place the appropriate policies and protocols. They're there. What's happening is, as we're seeing in a number of these high-profile events, is they're not being followed properly, particularly the firearms ones. That, to me, as a former police officer, would be a red flag risk issue immediately. Yet, we have had a number of instances where apparently action was not taken in relation to those firearms. The issue is, do police see domestic violence as a core policing function? Domestic violence policing takes up a substantial amount of their time. It's 40% of their time, according to New South Wales and Queensland Police.
And indeed, both services say that they get about 500 calls for help a day on DV.
Well, that's right. Somewhere between 180 and 200,000 jobs in a 12-month period. Now, that is a substantial issue in terms of the service you are providing. So I think the problem comes when, some police, despite the protocols and policies, don't see domestic violence as a core policing issue. The orders are a civil order, etc. There's no criminality necessarily attached to the initial engagement. And that is where I think the problem arises, that you've got to treat this as a crime problem. I mean, if you look at bikie-related crime versus domestic violence-related crime, DV-related crime far outstrips bikie-related crime by a mile. Yet our responses to it are vastly different. In terms of bikies, we put in investigative groups to do nothing but them, specialist groups who are focused. There's an investigative element put in there. What I see the police services often doing in terms of DV is they have an administrative response. They do training. They put policies in place.
What needs to be happening on the ground?
Well, I think if you've got a crime issue that's 40% of your time, then you should be putting a significant amount of your staff into dealing with nothing but that crime. So, the creation of specialist investigative units in each district throughout the state, and that is their role. So they are
that
invested.
all domestic violence then that comes to police for help, all cases are then dealt with by specialised DV officers. Is that what you're saying?
Once you invest people with the responsibility and they come to work and they know that their job is to investigate DV-related crime, those things will decrease.
That's Dr Terry Goldsworthy from Bond University. And in a statement to the ABC, a New South Wales Police Force spokesperson says the team is continuing to work through the reform outlined in recent reports. And if you're in an abusive situation or know someone who is, call 1-800-RESPECT. That's 1-800-737-732. If it's an emergency, call 000.